welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Steve, who is with the Paul Dostie Kare Foundation. Steve, welcome. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Thank you
Nice
for having me.
Nice to meet you. Hey, thanks for coming down. Thanks for some time tonight. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Paul Dostie Kare Foundation.
Well, the Paul Dostie Kare Foundation was put together in honor of my brother-in-law, who I consider more of a brother than a brother-in-law, and he passed away on May 25th of 2021.
Okay.
And I've been working with, we've been, family members for decades, but working with him in his business for many years, and kind of lived through the diagnosis of glioblastoma and the impact that's had on the family, and kind of helped him as well as working with his business. I also helped him as kind of a healthcare advisor. So I took him to specialists and so on and so forth. And when he passed away, we wanted to kind of honor his legacy, and we put together this foundation.
Now, what type of guy was he like?
He was just a great guy, loved by many, funny, witty, very kind, humble. When he passed away, I think an example of that was at his wake. We had well over 1,100 people waited hours to come pay their respects. And there's a lot of stories about Paul Dostie and him as a business owner and things he's done to help people. Mm-hmm. And a great story, I think, is, and I don't know if it's appropriate to tell a story now, but
Absolutely, go for it.
So Paul, probably decades ago, had a nurse fresh out of school come in with a blown transmission, and she didn't have any money, and I think the bill was going to be like $4,000 or $5,000, and she had only like maybe $1,100 to her name, and Paul fixed her transmission and sent her on her way for minimal cost. And then 3 decades later, Paul is at Yale New Haven Hospital dying, and we were trying to get him home to die in his family room with his family. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't get an ambulance. And somebody in the crowded ER heard the name Paul Dostie, and it happened to be this nurse who he fixed her transmission decades ago, was in a position of power, and she got him an ambulance, and he was able to get home. And and 6 hours later he passed away, but he was around his family, which is what he wanted and what we all wanted.
Wow.
So that's the kind of guy he was. He did that kind of thing all the time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that it would drive me crazy trying to advise him in his business was, Paul, stop giving everything away. But that was what made him who he was. He was a really, really good person. And when we were thinking about, what to call the foundation, I was playing around with the word care, and came up with K-A-R-E, kindness always rewards everyone, which is kind of like a mantra that we kind of associate with Paul. He was a great guy.
Yeah. You have any other stories you'd want to tell? Any others that stick out?
Well, he was a car doctor. I mean, he was expert at what he did. Oh, yeah. And I remember we took him down to Duke for a second opinion, and Duke ended up managing his care. And we were in the hotel waiting for an Uber, and we got in the Uber, drove to the appointment, mm-hmm. and Paul was sitting in the front seat with the Uber driver, and the Uber driver says, "Hey, thank you," and Paul says, "Thanks for the great ride," and he says, "By the way, I think your right rear tire needs wheel bearing replaced." I mean, that's just just the kind of guy he was. I mean,
absolutely.
He's just really expert at what he did, and he countless stories of him on Thanksgiving Day crawling under somebody's car to fix it, at drop of a hat. So he's a really great guy.
Absolutely. So I know we just told stories about Paul, but who was Paul Dostie?
Paul Dostie was a family man.
Okay.
Had three daughters, a set of twins, and I think they're in their mid-20s.
Okay.
And his daughter, Kristen, who got married about a month after he passed away. Married to a wonderful woman, Jeannie Dostie, who's taken over running their business. Loved his family above everything else. Great friend, had a whole boatload of friends. And he's been a mechanic his whole life from when his dad opened a business. He was, grew up in a transmission shop, was a pit crew member. His father was a race driver. Jerry's Transmission's been in business since 1959.
Oh, yeah.
Paul started there the second he could pick up a wrench. So he was a mechanic. He worked harder than anybody I ever known. He'd work, sometimes 15, 20 hours a day, just trying to, make his business, flourish. So a great businessman, good family man, good friend.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the foundation.
Okay.
Who's involved with the foundation?
It's family run. 4 board members. Linda Kelly, or Linda Dostie Kelly, is Paul's oldest sister. Okay. Older sister. There's only one girl. Yeah. And she's the president, and I'm the vice president. I'm as his brother-in-law, and his brother Brian and wife Jeannie are the 4 board members. Okay.
And obviously you guys are a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
We are.
Okay.
And our mission really is to kind of follow in some of the things that Paul did. Like, for example, he was very good at identifying candidates to work at the shop that were like backyard mechanics.
Right.
Someone who maybe needed an extra lift to kind of get them going in the career of automotive repair. So we wanted in our mission to try to identify those backyard mechanics and actually offer a scholarship, either to go to a trade school, or if they didn't want to go to school, we'd offer them a internship at Jerry's and help them buy their first set of tools.
Exactly.
And we just awarded our first scholarship to Haley Ortiz, a young lady that is going to become a mechanic.
Cool.
Yeah, she started just a few weeks ago at Jerry's. And then the other part, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other part of the mission is to, Paul would say, we traveled down to Duke to get treatments. We went to, Boston to Dana-Farber. We went to the Memorial Sloan Kettering. And he was fortunate enough to have the finances that would allow him to make those trips and so on. But not everybody does.
No.
And so what we wanted to do with the foundation is identify families and patients of with glioblastoma, and also a heart condition similar to his daughter Allie, who has a heart condition. We wanted to identify families and help them financially, whether it be paying for an airline ticket to get to some second opinion, or in one case, one of the family members was losing their job, and we wanted to help them maybe make a mortgage payment, things like that.
Now, and I'm sure that going to mechanic school is a lot of hard work, and it's probably time consuming as well.
Yeah. Yes. Paul was not a big believer in the tech schools, to be honest with you.
No.
No, he was more a believer in identifying somebody who was that backyard, mechanic is already doing it, and then kind of bringing them into the fold and putting them into the real world scenario, teaching them in the real world scenario. And so that's Haley. Haley is kind of that person that just wants to jump right into the business and learn. And we'll help her with on-the-job training, and we'll provide her a set of tools so she can get started. But next year we might find somebody that really wants to go to a Votech school, and we would help them with some tuition.
Right. Now, as far as the website goes, what types of information can people find on the website?
Well, they can find our mission, a little bit more about the foundation. They can find a little biography about Paul. They can find a section that identifies all the families that we've helped so far. I believe there's 8 families we've helped so far, and 9 including Haley as the scholarship award winner. And then you can see events that we've held, and pictures from past events, and list of corporate sponsors, and a list of individual sponsors as well is listed on the website.
And I have to let you know, you guys recently did a car show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually in attendance at the car show. Very nicely run.
That was a great event. That was on Father's Day. It was on Father's Day. So we had, I think, 200 cars. And,
oh wow!
And the organizer of the car show donated all proceeds to the Kare Foundation, which was
nice.
Tremendous. But the week prior to that, we had our major fundraising event, which we plan to have on an annual basis, called the Kare Fest.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, Kare Fest was held on June 11th at the Guilford Fairgrounds.
Sure.
And we had 3 bands, 2 local bands, and a headliner, John Cafferty and Beaver Brown band. And we had Thimble Island Brewery donated beer for the event. We had all kinds of food vendors. We had kid activities. We had art and craft vendors participate in the event. So it was our first and hopefully our annual event, and it was very successful.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work to put an event like that together.
It was tremendous work. Linda and I and others on the board, we worked a lot of hours, trying to make good decisions, and I think we've made most of them were very good, and I think we've learned a few lessons for next year, which is going to be, we're going to hold it on June 10th next year at the Guilford Fairgrounds. More details to follow.
Steve, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Roofing scams become more common this time of year. Better Business Bureau Scam Tracker is receiving reports of shady, free roof inspections. Homeowners should be on the lookout for these cons. The person may claim that their company is working on a neighbor's home and is offering inspections to those living nearby. If they don't find enough wear and tear to merit a whole new roof, they may fabricate it by tearing off shingles to mimic wind damage, or they may simply show you pictures of someone else's damaged roof. Beware of unsolicited offers, especially after a storm. Get your insurance company to inspect your roof to verify the need for repairs or replacements. Ask for references and check out their work yourself. There are 1,200 BBB accredited roofers in Connecticut. Find the right one by going to bbb.org to look at a company's business rating. There you can check for a pattern of complaints and read reviews, and also share your experiences by writing a review yourself to help others in their search.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Steve from the Paul Dostie Foundation. Steve, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for coming down. So, Steve, maybe we can talk a little bit about the form of cancer that Paul had.
Yeah, Paul had what's called glioblastoma, which is I think one of the top brain cancers, and when folks get diagnosed. For some reason now my antenna's up every time I hear somebody with brain cancer. I'm asking if it's glioblastoma, and unfortunately many times it is. Oh, wow. And the median survival with glioblastoma is, I believe it's like 14 to 16 months. And Paul lived 19 months after a diagnosis. He was diagnosed, I believe it was October 25th, a little over a year ago, and he was diagnosed after having severe headaches, and he actually fell at the shop, and we kind of think that he had it for a longer period of time because Paul was had this tremendous pain threshold and endurance like no one else I've ever met. So he probably had it for 6 months and never told anybody about it. And he had that episode. He ended up at Yale, and my wife and I and Jeannie and Paul were in the emergency room with him at Yale when he was when they said he had a brain tumor, and then he had to have surgery. It's first course of treatment with glioblastoma is surgery, and the hope is to get most of it in that surgical procedure. Fortunately for Paul, the surgeon said she got everything she could see, and then he had radiation therapy, and then he had chemotherapy, and around that time we tried to get him into a clinical trial down at Duke, and we went to Duke has got a pretty well-respected brain tumor program, and so we went down and he was part of a trial. And was in the trial for a while, and then the trial, then he fell out of the trial, and then we were just kind of treating him with chemotherapy, and he was going along fine, and then crashed pretty quickly.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was a tough time for our family.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now tell us a little, let's talk about, we talked about the mission, let's talk about the goals of the foundation.
Our goals, as I mentioned earlier, what we're trying to do is help families. Okay. I think the first thing we want to do is identify families who are struggling financially with things that say their insurance doesn't cover, or maybe their leave of absence from work is lapsed and they're going to struggle to make ends meet or pay their mortgage. We want to come up with some funds to help them. So that's really what we're trying to do. And we're focusing on brain tumors and also heart disease, because one of Paul's twin daughters, Allie, has a disease called HCM, which is a cardiac disease. And so we've added HCM to our mix, and we've helped a couple families that have HCM that needed some financial assistance. So that's really what I think we'll spend most of our time on. And then we'll also try at least yearly to identify one of these backyard mechanics and try to help them get started in the industry the way Paul helped so many others. If you were at his celebration at Thimble Island after the funeral, we had an open mic, and a bunch of guys got up that we didn't even know were there, got up and said, hey, I just want to talk about Paul, how he helped me get started. And that's when we kind of I kind of said kindness just kind of came out, and that's why we came up with the Kindness Always Rewards Everyone Care acronym.
Wow, you guys seem like you're doing a lot of good work. We
are. Yeah, we're pretty happy with, we're sad to not have Paul here. It's last year was a tough year for our family. We lost my mother-in-law, we lost Paul, I lost my mother, but there's something about losing Paul that sticks. And 59 years old, you shouldn't leave this earth. But this foundation's kind of helped us find a new kind of purpose. And we're always talking to him, like when we're getting close to the Care Fest, we kept talking to him, saying pull a string, we need good weather, stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So we feel really good about the work that we're doing, and we think he would be thrilled. He would have been thrilled to be at Care Fest. One of the other things I'll say about Paul was he was an optimist. He had a smile on his face. He kept saying he was going to beat this. He kept saying, I got this. And I think up to the day he died, he had a big smile on his face. So he would have loved to have been at the party that we put together for him at CareFest. So that's what keeps us kind of going, makes us feel good doing something in his memory.
Now, do you think you're going to do the car show again next year?
I believe so. I believe we're going to have the car show next year. We know for sure we're having CarFest next year. We have CareFest, and we're going to have coming up in October.
Yeah,
we have a golf
Let's talk about the golf tournament.
Yeah, we have a date of October 14th. We're going to do a scramble at the Portland Golf Club in Portland, Connecticut. Actually, someone that I don't know, but that Linda might have known, offered this up to us kind of out of nowhere. So we're real excited to kind of put our our fundraising hats back on and help the cause with a great event on the 14th. And then we're also working with the Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart BC hockey game. The athletic director, or one of the athletic directors, a guy named Charlie Dowd, is a friend of the family, and he offered us the opportunity to fundraise at their hockey game. So that's, I don't have the dates on that yet, but but I'll let you know, and
please.
You can get the word out.
I was going to say, if you let me know, I'll have you back on with me, and we can talk about hockey.
Happy to do that.
We definitely talk about hockey.
Happy to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's talk about. We talked a little bit about it. Let's talk about the funding sources.
Funding sources. When we first started, we kind of did a friends and family, request for donations, which was very successful. I think we had. Bunch of benefactors. We had 14 folks that donated $1,000. We had a couple that folks that donated $2,500, and 4 donated in the $5,000 range to kind of get us going. And then we had an event called $60 for 60, which was kind of a celebration of Paul's 60th birthday.
Right. And
we got some funding to kind of get us going there. We were able to help some families and also provide funding to work towards the things that we need to fund to get CareFest off the ground. And then in CareFest, prior to CareFest, we sold quite a few corporate sponsorships for the actual CareFest organization event, and we had 18 bronze sponsors that was $500 sponsors. We had 11 sponsors in the $1,000 range, and we had 10 sponsors at $2,500 and 7 at $5,000. So we raised a lot of money prior to the Care Fest. I would encourage everybody to jump on our website and take a look at the corporate sponsors, because a lot of them were local business people.
Yep.
And we would love for folks to patronize those local businesses, because they, some of them just without question pulled their checkbook out and helped us out, and some of them offered money, some of them offered in-kind kind of things, like if we needed paper supplies, there was a company that provided all the paper supplies. Thimble Island Brewery provided all the beer for free and the wine for free. We had sponsors for waters and food and all kinds of things that it just blows your mind how generous folks are, and it was obviously for a good cause, and most of the corporate sponsors knew Paul and wanted to help in any way possible. So we'll continue to keep the funding going as much as we can, so we can help more people.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's really important to support your local businesses.
Absolutely.
Especially living in a small town like you live in, like I live in. It's really important, especially now, because of what's going on in the world.
I think if you go on our website, all the corporate sponsors' logos are on there, so you'll see all the folks that actually helped us, and most of them have committed to help us again in 2023. I'm betting that all of them will, and then we'll have some more, next year.
Absolutely. So if people want more information on the foundation, where are they going?
Go to pauldostiecarefund.org.
And obviously all the information every piece of information that people could want is on the website.
It's on there.
It's on the website.
Yeah, and I would also encourage if someone has has a family member or knows somebody that's struggling with glioblastoma or HCM, and they're in need of some financial support, I would ask them to go to contact@pauldostiecarefund.org.
Okay.
And then we're actively looking for families to help, and we'll do as much as we possibly can. And our intent is to spend every dime that we raise on real people. And so please send your if you have a loved one or a friend or someone you know, that's how we find out about these folks, usually through other people.
Wow. You guys are a very worthwhile organization, and what I'm about to say, I mean, going forward, if you guys need anything, please reach out to me and let me know.
I will definitely do that.
I would be more than happy to help get the word spread if you guys are doing a fundraiser, if you guys need me to show up as a pop by an event and say hello. I would be more than happy to do that.
I will appreciate that. We probably could have used a little more marketing last time, and we'll do.
It's a learning experience.
There you go.
It's a learning experience.
There you go. Well, we appreciate you taking the time with us, with me today, and giving us a chance to talk about it.
Not a problem. And one website one more time before we say goodnight.
PaulDostieKare.org.
Steve from the Paul Dostie Foundation, thanks for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
You got it. On behalf of Steve, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. We'll see you next time.